Welcome back everybody to another episode. We're going to be working on the RS again today. I'm actually been noticing a problem with the car lately where I'm getting a boost surge between 4,000 and 5,000 RPM and then it just pulls, you know, right out of it at 5,000 and continues to pull strong. Read tons of forums on this subject. People chalk it up to the O2 sensors, the MAP sensor, boost leaks, vacuum leaks. I'm going through my list trying to just narrow down what I think the cause of my issue is. I did clean the mass airflow sensor the other day and I noticed actually a big improvement in the way that the car did respond through 4,000 and 5,000 RPM. So I'm going to take another look at that today and maybe clean it again. But also we want to install a boost gauge, and there's not a lot of great options on the market for Imprezas and gauge pods. You can mount it to your C pillar or A pillar. You can, do the dash mount, which would require 3 gauges or some blanks. But I wanted to just mount one gauge, a boost gauge, just to diagnose my problem. I noticed that there is online a 3D printed boost gauge that fits in a Forester dash, and it seems like the dashes are relatively similar. So I printed up that gauge pod. I'll insert the clip right here. It's actually pretty cool to watch. And then I'll show you those pieces, and then we're going to move on to doing the install. We also as well installed an LED in the back of the gauge pod. Or in back of the gauge. It's a very cheap gauge. I got it from Advanced Auto Parts. I think it was like $25. And then the gauge pod didn't cost me anything because I 3D printed it. But it's a very cheap, easy way to do this, and I think it's going to turn out to look pretty good at the end. So let's find out. Alright, so this is the gauge pod. It's a Bosch, however you want to say it. It's the one I picked up from Advance. But this is the pod itself. So it basically replaces the dash like defroster vent. It sits on each side of the dash and it clips right in. The only thing I think I might have to do is shave a little bit off of this side of the inside plastic, and it should clip in just fine. But this is a mechanical gauge, so it just runs a vacuum line to it. And then I already got the wires set up. We soldered the wires on the LED on the inside, and so I'll insert the clip of that as well. And then since this doesn't fit 100% snug in here, I might end up trying to wrap like a rubber band or some electrical tape around this and see if that gives it a snugger fit. But pretty sick. I'm stoked on this. I wanted to mention, we made this out of PLA, which is not the best material to make it out of. You can make it out of ABS, which would be ideal, but we didn't have a couple components we needed to print ABS. We needed to get like a glass bed and some other things. So we printed it out of PLA. We're going to see if this works, and if it does for the time being, we're going to get set up to print ABS, and then we'll reprint it so that it's a stronger quality and hopefully won't distort in the sun. Also too, I have my vacuum lines, just some extra ones in case I need it. I have a vacuum tee that I just picked up from my local auto parts store. And then I forgot to mention, we also 3D printed this. It's basically a screw-on thread for your shifter, and it gives you like the OEM collar back so that you can have your OEM shift boot collar. This goes on the inside of your fabric, and it basically makes it so it'll clip in and hold itself when everything's together, so you don't have a droopy shift boot. If you're wondering why I have one pant leg up, it's because I burned myself on the bikes. And it's rubbing on my pants. So I'm going to be tapping my T basically right here on the diverter valve. I used this boost location in the past and it seems to work pretty well, and these pop off relatively easily. So I'm just going to throw the T in right there, and then I'm going to run it underneath the booster through the grommet on the firewall, and then we will run it up to the location of the boost gauge. So since we got to do some trimming, I'm going to push this back out. You guys will get to see what it kind of looks like. LED fixture thing that we made on the back, and then we soldered the ends to the LED. It's got the mechanical boost line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take the old one and match it up to this one the best I can with the way it would be oriented in the car. And then I'm just going to follow that trim mark on the back side of it to cut off the excess, if that makes sense. Alright, so this is going to be our first test. It should tell us if we have good vacuum. I'm going to have to double check, but I'm pretty sure correct vacuum is 18 to 20. So we'll double check on that, but we're going to take the car for a drive. See what the boost is sitting at, to see if we're over boosting or not, and then we'll come back and we'll hook up the light part of it. We can show you guys the light tonight when it gets a little bit darker. Still not in the right position. How could this be happening to me? Ooh, maybe that's it. I'm gonna have a hard time believing this thing will go over 15.5 pounds. We'll see.
How mad are you gonna be if it's just a vacuum leak?
Pretty fucking mad, because I've looked at almost every vacuum line, if not replaced a ton of vacuum lines. So I'm gonna be pretty upset. So I don't know if you can see right there, but on D-cell we're sitting at 18 to 20. So it might not be a vacuum leak, but I still gotta check. Couple lights second here. I don't know, this car doesn't make over 12 pounds, so we're not over boosting. I guess I hit 13 and a half at one point. not over boosting, I still really feel like this issue that I'm having is mass airflow sensor related. Real quick, we're at a stoplight. It's go time. No, it's not doing it anymore. So I don't know, you know, honestly, maybe I never got into the full learn system of this car. Like, because I never, once we did the swap, I never got crazy like into boost or anything. So watch. Strong all the way through. Crazy. So I did clean the mass airflow sensor again, like I mentioned earlier. I cleaned it right before we left and let it dry and stuff, but like I said, maybe it has to do with cleaning the MAF. I never let the car go through the full learn process because, to be quite honest, I was a little scared to get on the car. You know, if you ever swapped in a used motor, it's not like you know. So, but just it. I mean, it's not doing it. I'll do another light one. You gonna give her the beans?
I'm gonna try.
Hell yeah. That felt wild in the passenger seat. That felt so wild. So I got a couple options as to what I can run the power wire to for the LED. I could use the fog light switch so that the light would be on when the headlights and fog lights are on, or I can use this switch. I have this switch for something else. You guys will see that in a later video. But I think I'm gonna end up running to this power wire, and this power wire is hot when the car is turned on. So it'll just be running all the time. That's what I'm gonna do. But you could hook this up to a lot of stuff. Like you could hook it to the side marker light. I've heard people do that. There's tons of options, but I'm just gonna go ahead and plug into this power wire here so that we can get power. I'm not gonna bore you guys with that though. It's pretty simple. It's just gonna be like a connector and moving some wires around. But once we get this all finished up, I'll show you what the gauge looks at night. Thank you all so much for watching. The boost gauge is done. It turned out really well. It doesn't appear we have any vacuum leaks. We're not over boosting. So most likely I'm going to chalk that up to being the mass airflow was a little bit dirty and that I didn't let it go through the proper learn sequence when we did the swap. But now that everything's mechanically sound on it, that's what I really wanted. I wanted Ashlyn to be able to have fun in this car and drive it around with no concerns. So I feel like we're at that point now. We're going to be moving on to visual stuff. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more RS content. She should be pretty sick here in the near future.